Come on, welcome to our last couple weeks here. Last week, come on, somebody. Woo, you're loud. Chapter 12 and chapter 13 kind of put it all together, and you did it. You worked hard, you got the information. But remember, as anything in life, that the information isn't enough. You have to apply it. You have to apply it, and I strongly recommend, I was even talking to Dion before, one of the key things of raising up a family was every year going to the parenting conference once a year. It's surprising. We got the ability after doing it, after kind of leading for 5 years, began to teach it. And every year, even though we put it together, we're teaching it, I'm like, I forgot about that. That's good. I need to start doing that again. And you kind of hear things that go on with the age of your children. So if you have little toddlers now, you retained everything dealing with a toddler. And then you're going through, and now all of a sudden you've got yourself a second grader, a third grader, and you're like, oh, I don't think that was even in there the first time we went through. And so you hear it, but it's a good refresher. Like I said, you will go through it every year. And our goal is that some of you, if not all of you, all become leaders. You'll learn more when you lead. You always learn more. So I got my college education degree to teach math. And, I kind of knew math, but then when I had to teach it, oh my gosh, I had to know it even better. And so it took me to the next level. And the way that our book, we got it all done, and we're still doing a few edits, but now it'll become a book. And if you're watching right now, you have the book. And it's designed for you as leaders to open up your home, have 2 or 3 couples, friends that you have, 4 couples over, and every week, go week by week and watch the videos. And this is kind of what where this whole program is going. And so if you'd like to be a leader, be a leader. You can always ask Betsy, ask any of us about that. Go to, of course, to the website. Anyway, so here we are in our last week. We got some good information, but there's a couple things I wanted to ask. We added the scenarios in there in the whole book this time, and I've been talking to the leadership. They're talking about how you're all enjoying the scenarios. I encourage you to keep doing scenarios, especially if you got young kids. This is what we did, right? When I think it was on our second date.
Maybe.
On our second date, we started doing scenarios, and I don't know why. I think we were just built to train up a parent. I mean, we just started right away. Hey, if you had a kid, and it wasn't creepy like we're going to have a kid, but we were just talking about what would you do if you had a 2-year-old that did this, and it actually was a fun part of our dating years. We did it all the way through. We just come up with scenarios, and it kind of what it does is it places in your heart. When you get to that point, you're kind of already talked it through you've already talked it through. And you could do it singles. You could do it with other single people and friends, and just talk through scenarios. And it just helps get your heart ready for when the circumstances do come. You're kind of already emotionally ready for that. All right, I wanted to talk about, before we get to the flow chart, what I would say is the double portion. Biblically speaking, there's a double portion that should go on from me and Holly to our children, and then down to our grandchildren. But it's important that we understand as parents, whatever we overcome, our children don't have to overcome it, right? There are things that oftentimes our parents and our grandparents have generational things, right? Maybe they dealt with depression, right? Great-grandma had it, and grandma had it, and your mom had it, and maybe now you're dealing with it. And until one generation says, we're not going to do that anymore, that's not God's plan for mine, and you overcome it, then it just goes on to the next generation, and every generation it seems to get a little worse. But when you break it off of your family, when you break it off of you, then when you start here, your kids start here, right? Right? But if you stay here where your parents are and you don't go anywhere, then your kids oftentimes, it's weird how it goes, they actually go this way with it, and they go this way, and it goes worse. And so what you don't overcome, what overcomes you, then your children, it'll overcome, it'll be powerful in their life. And so it's very important that we as parents realize and see things in ourselves, see things that have happened generationally with our grandparents and our great-grandparents, that we go, this is the generation that stops. For me and Holly, for both of us, I believe that both of our parents, there are things that our grandparents had in their lives that our parents who got into church, right, they broke those things off. And then it made it easier for me and you.
Well, I was just going to say, I think a lot of times too, when it pops up, it's familiar because maybe you did have a family member, a parent or a sibling that dealt with whatever it is. And I think human nature goes, oh, okay, so we see it in our kid or we see it in ourselves. And I think when it's familiar, we have to be careful that we don't give it account, like that we don't own it, that we don't go, oh, I know what this is. And, my mom had it and her mom had it. Rather, when you see it pop up, you need to go, oh, no. We're not doing that again. And I think it's a different attitude. And so it's so important to know what a generational curse is and just generational stuff and to know that we don't have to own it. And just because, a relative had it or you saw a parent struggle with it, we're people of the word. We're faith people. And we believe in healing and we believe in being able to call what we want into existence and not have to live by the familiar. But it is easy. It is easy to go ahead and to own it and to be like, yeah, I've seen this before because we've seen it before and it's familiar. And, sometimes the unknown and walking free of it is a little scarier. Take the jump. Go ahead and do it afraid. Do it scary because it's far better than owning it and passing it down to yet another generation. So don't let familiarity make you own it and call it yours. It's not yours.
And that's so good. It's not yours. Don't accept it. Right? Well, I'm just a stressed out person. Right? But that's not biblical. Don't accept anything that doesn't line up with the Word of God. Right? Just, depression runs in my family. Right? It's just, right? Not anymore. You don't accept any limits on your life because if you do, then your children are. Some generation is going to have to beat it. And if you don't want to beat it for you, beat it for your children. Yeah, right? I mean, there's not anything we wouldn't do for our kids. Well, why wouldn't you want to beat that, to overcome it? You had anger, and your dad dealt with anger, and your granddad did anger. Well, this is the generation that we get rid of anger. And I'm going to fight this battle. See, the generation that got the walls of Jericho down, their kids walked in with them. They didn't have to go redo Jericho again. Same thing. You may have some walls and things, and generation after generation been in the wilderness, but you say, this is the generation that we get into the promised land.
Well, and I like that because there is a difference between denying that it's there and seeing it and saying it's not going to stay. That's two different things. When you see it pop up and you're like, I'm not seeing that, that's not happening. We don't walk in denial because we can't change that which we won't acknowledge. What I'm saying is you acknowledge it and then you say it's not going to last. Don't own it. So there's a difference between denying that it exists and owning it as another generation's cross to bear.
Come on, that's so good. And a big one to look at is addictions. Addictions are passed on. There are things in your life that are holding your world back. Break it off. And I'm going to hit this one, and I am going to hit some stuff today, and this is going to be this will probably be the video that goes viral, gets us on The View, and so.
I don't want to be in that video.
I don't want to be on The View either. I don't want them talking about me, but it could happen.
Viral video.
I don't want it, but they'll look back and go, yeah, he actually even said it, and I don't think this will be the part. There's a part coming though.
Can I go sit down?
No, you're with me. We do this together. We're going to run this race together. I don't care if you do alcohol. I don't care about alcohol. I don't care at all. It doesn't bother. I don't care. You want to do marijuana? Whatever. Do marijuana. It doesn't matter. It doesn't bother me. Right. I've always you're going to get into Scotty's mindset with alcohol. I'd like to be smart. I think that we all try to be smarter. There's pills that say, hey, this will help your IQ, help you with your memory. There's not pills out there that people are advertising, hey, this is going to make you dumber, you're going to make bad choices with this, right? It's going to lower your IQ. And to me, I need all my brain cells I have. I don't know why I want to get less of them. So alcohol's never made a problem with me. I don't care. No. Most people drink. Doesn't bother me. Go drink. But you have to understand this, and I really want to grab the hearts of you and those that are watching the video. Homes that have alcohol in them, that it becomes accepted in the home. I don't care if you do it. This is train up a parent. Those homes, those kids, the statistically, they have 300 times more likely to have alcohol and drug problems. Because here's the thing. Especially boys' brain, they say, is not ready until they are 25. It's just crazy. They got so many emotions, so many things going on. So alcohol's in the home. They hit that 16, 17-year-old age. Well, alcohol's fine. It's no big deal. Woo! And then wherever level you have, multiply by 100 of what they're going to do. And it gets them into some really bad decisions and choices. Yeah. The reason why alcohol, I tried it. Like and Heath are in here. I'm sure you guys tried it. Whatever. But it didn't become a part of their world. As I tried it, it just didn't make sense because we never had alcohol in the home, so it just didn't make sense to me. I drank it. I'm like, okay, I threw up, and it was not fun. I didn't enjoy any part. It tastes horrible. They're like, got to acquire a taste. I'm like, well, if I ate poop long enough, I'd acquire a taste for that too. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I didn't have to acquire a taste of Dr. Pepper. I just loved it. My gosh. And so it didn't make sense to me. So if you're like, well, we like to drink. Good. Go out. When you go out without the kids, drink. Have your little drinks. Do all your stuff outside of the home. I'm saying if I were you and I love to drink and I love my wine, then I would just do it when the kids are not around out of the house. Now, if you find yourself having to sneak in the garage and have some booze, well, then you have problems, maybe. Maybe you just got to look at your life a little bit and go, hey, should I just, like maybe, I don't know if it needs it that, like I don't sneak in the garage to have a Dr. Pepper. Like if I did, I go, man, maybe I need to fix that. But I don't, like I said, I don't mind. Have your booze, but really consider the impact and the influence that it'll have on your children between the ages of 16 to 25, maybe 15 to 25, and go, you know what, it's just not worth it. I mean, when they're 25, we'll bring all the booze back in the house. But for now, I think we're going to make better decisions. You got to have your medical marijuana. Good for you. Have it. I don't care. But maybe your kids don't know about it. You know, maybe it's not in the world because whatever you do between 15 and 25, they're going to raise it up a huge bunch. So that's what I say on that.
Well, and can I just say that goes for other stuff. Like
Sure.
it goes for other things that maybe you don't want your kids to be familiar and just, or a better word maybe is desensitized. Like I think it's important that we look at some of these things and we go, that's probably one of the ones, and especially age appropriateness. You know, when Savannah was little, it was okay that she watched princess movies, but I was really, really careful that there wasn't a whole, like that she didn't, she wasn't sitting in on massive romance movies
You were really good at that.
At a young age. I mean, and even now, there's some that I'm like, we're not, because it's her age appropriateness. She's impressionable. She's at the age where the boy thing wants to try and be a thing, and to me, I'm like, I don't want her romanticizing stuff before her mind and her self-control, and does that make sense? Like all of that stuff. So I think what I hear you saying is we need to be careful that we're sensitive to not having things in our home that we're putting our mark on inadvertently or putting our okay on inadvertently that desensitize our kids to make them think that, oh, well, it's okay. And we've met a lot of people that came out of homes that had alcoholism issues, and those children were like, I will never have that in my house.
Right.
And so I think we're sensitive to that as well.
100%.
And what, the statistics.
Guard your heart with all diligence. Who guards your kid's heart? That's your job until they get old enough. Yeah. You guard their heart. You guard what they watch. You ever been to a movie? There's times that we see a movie, and there's like a 4-year-old in there, and I'm like, why? What are we doing? Who does that? Like, I barely were able to handle that movie. And I go, like, there's age appropriateness. And, listen to the Holy Spirit. Holly's very good. Like, she's like, no. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. And about making sure that what we allow to put into our children is producing. And you'll know, too, if your kid is playing, a video game and they just are so angry all the time, and you go, no, we're going to have to take that away. Because once again, we choose for our children until they're old enough to make a decision. And there are kids that can play certain like battle games at a younger age and it doesn't affect them. But some kids are different. And you have a boy and maybe 10, 11, 12 years old and they're playing a game and they're just aggressive and it just made them angry, made them mad. You have to go, okay, well, yeah, but my brother gets to play it. I get that. But life's not fair. And you can't handle this, and so that's okay. When you can handle it, there's nothing wrong with you, but when you can handle it, then we can talk about it. I make decisions until you can. Go ahead.
I'm just going to throw it in there really fast for the sake of time, but you brought up a really good point. I remember when the boys were little, they would, we had this dress-up stuff, and maybe this will go viral because we legit had a fake arsenal of like all kinds of weapons. We had, fake.
James Dobson says it's okay, and I do too.
Well, if James says it's all right.
I believe in him.
So we had swords and we had, rubber knives and we had all kinds of, like boy stuff. We had boys. We had 4 boys and we had, yes, axes and all kinds of crazy stuff. But there was moments where I was like, wow, why are you guys so fighty with each other? Like, calm down.
I like the word fighty.
Yeah. I was like, chill out. And the Holy Spirit really impressed on my heart. And I got a little convicted. There were different seasons where I was like, okay, we're going to put a pause on the dress up stuff. And I just piled it all up, put a tote, the lid on the tote. And I'm like, that guy goes away until we can get along with each other on all occasions. Like, I'm okay with you playing and fake fighting and playing swords and whatever. But when you're now fighting with each other, like, all the time and just contentious and you can't get along, something has to pull back. And so I would put it away. And don't you know, they would. I would say, no more crazy fighty games. We're done. We're going to take a pause and we're going to do, I don't know, crafts. I don't know. What did we do? Anyway, I just...
Pottery.
Yeah. Play-Doh. I don't know. So we would put it away. And don't you know, I would start to see this leveling out in their personalities and their ability to get along with each other. So it just requires that we're paying attention. It requires that we're a little sensitive ourselves to what's changed or what needs to change, and put a pause on it, and then let them know when when we're good to go, we can bring it back out. But maybe the age appropriateness right now is too hard for you to handle, and I'm in charge.
And how that is so good. It's just when you start to see changes in your children, looking at the environment, right? I met with a parent whose kid was they're like, oh my God, just all out of nowhere. And come to find out when we begin to talk, I find out, I usually go to, well, what kind of music do you listen to? And they put it on, I'm like, okay, let's take that music away. Let's try it for a month. No more of whatever that is, because that made me angry and I only listened to 3 seconds of it. Let's do it different. And when you know, within just a few weeks, just by changing what was going in, you can listen to that music when you get older, but right now, obviously, you can't handle that kind of music. I don't know if anybody can handle it, but you can't definitely handle that music, and it changes. And so as parents, we're navigating. We're looking all around that we're taking things into account, that our kids are young, that our kids are impressionable, and that the outside stimuli has an effect on our children. Lead me not into temptation. So rather than having to do discipline, it's better that I get rid of things that are going to get it so I don't have to bring discipline into your life. Church is I think, I looked at families that were Christian when we grew up and the craziness that their kids got into and everything else. And I saw that where my family went, and Holly, we were in church. And I can't impress on you anymore everything. Like, to me, it's the most important thing you can do with your family is just one day a week, right? Because also you can go overboard and be here too many days, and that I've seen that hurt homes. But one day a week, we go to one church service. I was thinking as I was going over this teaching, I don't remember ever missing a church. I don't remember one time. I had chicken pox, and even then we were like trying to get me healed and get me to church. I missed one Sunday in all of my years growing up. I never got up on a Sunday and go, what are we going to do today? We're going to church. I always knew we were going to church. It was never it was not an option. And I always went to my class, and that's so important as parents that I don't feel convicted. Don't be looking around. But if you do have your kids sitting in the sanctuary, then let's navigate by the time of 2023 comes, or for you that are watching maybe in a couple months, navigate them to their classroom. They need friends. They're going to have friends in the world. It's so funny. Parents are like, well, they don't get anything out of that. If your kids said that about school, you're like, I don't take them to school because they said they don't learn anything. It doesn't make any sense. Kids know how to work their parents. And let's say that the things that parents go, they just don't learn. Your kids don't care. They didn't sit in the class and go, man, I wish I'd have learned a little bit more about Rebecca today. They don't care, right? But they need to be in the class for so many great reasons. And number one, they need to make friendships that are in the church. They're going to have people in their teenage years trying to pull them away. Thank the Lord that my kids were home playing with their Christian church friends, all of them, every weekend. Like they were. That's who they hung out with. They were hanging out with church kids, and it really helped navigate the teenage years. Make church, as the Andersons, what do? We go to church. This is what we do every weekend. And so I can't implore to you how, to me, that is probably everything we've taught. The most important thing that you can do is church. All right, here we go. Let's go. You ready to dance? Let's dance on this one. We're going to dance a little bit because of our culture that we're in today. I make my children's decisions until they can make that. That's a fact. Until you can make a good choice, I make your choices. That's just the way it is. And I wonder if that is probably forever, because I can't imagine a 40-year-old of mine making really, really bad life decisions if I don't get involved heavily in their life. That's just the way that I'm built, and I'm hoping that's the way that you are built. I will not, and I refuse to ever let my children throw their life away. I never will do that. In our society today, there is crazy around. I think it's a small percentage, but it is a loud part of our society. And I want to make sure we as Christians know that we still hold things to a biblical standard. There's still the Bible. There is, according to the Bible, two genders. There's a male and there is a female. That is biblical. I'm not making that up. You're not like, oh my God, where'd that come from, right? Everybody in here, we know there's a boy and there's a girl. So the problem that comes in our society right now, and it's all over the place, is you have a kid, 6 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, maybe a boy, who the parents are like, they're a girl trapped in that body. When they become adults, whatever you want to do, that's fine. But when you're a child, I can't let you make decisions that could hurt your future when you're a child, right? I thought I was a dinosaur at 6. My parents didn't take me to the doctor and try and get me right. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't go, I think he has dinosaur tendencies. Like they did. Like, and it's funny, but like, when you think about how dumb we are right at this time, it really is frustrating to me to see parents, because what you're saying is God made you a boy. So you're saying, God messed up, my bad. I don't know what happened to him. He just really messed this one up. You're saying, right? Instead of saying, no, you're a boy. We're going to help you navigate this, because it is a real thing. There's gender dysphoria. That's a real thing. That's a real thing, and kids really go through that, and we have to have empathy for that. But in the same way, there are girls usually who go through anorexia, which is the same kind of thing. They are super skinny, and they think and they believe they are fat. We don't say to an anorexic person, hey, we're going to put you on a diet because you think you're fat, so you are fat. And so we're going to go with your misbelief, and we're going to, right, take you off food, take you everything, help you lose weight, get you on the treadmill, right? We don't do that, because you're like, well, no, that's crazy. They're not fat. Okay, so then why do we take a boy that thinks they are a girl and we do the same thing when they're young? Once again, welcome to The View. I know we're going to be on it for this. This could go crazy, right? And I'm okay with that. I really am. This is Train Up a Parent. This is not Sunday morning. This is Train Up a Parent. And so what I want to make sure is kids go, here's what happens in the school system that we're in that can happen, where a teacher gets up and says, hey guys, do you feel like you're out of place? Do you feel like you don't belong? Do you ever feel like rejected by other people of your same sex? Right? And you're talking to a second grader, you're talking to a third grader. That's the whole class. Everyone in there is like, yeah, that's me. Yeah, oh, right, that's me. That's all of us when we were that grade.
Yes.
Well, maybe you're trapped in the wrong body. Do you see that? You could get me a group of second graders, and I could convince them by the end of the school year that they are dingoes. And I could navigate that very well. And you see the danger of that. That oftentimes a 4-year-old, 5-year-old boy will see their sister's pretty cool shoes and be wearing dress shoes, and then parents go, oh my God, I wonder if you're a girl. And they begin to speak it into the child's life and begin to say, maybe you are. And the kid's like, maybe I am, right? And then we make life-altering decisions for a child that is taking them away from God's place. God designed that to be a man one day that's going to marry a woman and have children. And the devil would like nothing better than to destroy their future on a decision that was made when they're 7 or 8 years old. That's what I'm saying. So we make decisions. Ben Shapiro said this, and I love that. He had his son, 4 years old, wanted to wear his sister's shoes. He said, oh, okay. He didn't go, oh, you must be a girl. He took him out to a store, had him pick out cowboy boots, and then the kid just never wanted to take off the cowboy boots, loved the cowboy boots. It wasn't about being male or female. It was about the pretty shoes. And we have to make sure with our children that we, obviously if they're dealing with gender dysphoria, we get help. We navigate that. We don't make life-altering decisions when they're 8. We wait until you're 18, and then you can make that. Once you're 18, go. Do whatever you are. We don't judge. Get it, whatever you want to do. But when you're a child, we have to make sure that we are parents that make decisions for you until you can make the right choices. My brother in junior high, Jason, and maybe you'll watch this, be like, oh my gosh, but it'd be fine, because we've talked about that.
Because you're the older brother.
Because I am the older brother. No, I remember this. This is specifically. My parents all of a sudden noticed it. I noticed too. he was acting very feminine. He began to have feminine characteristics. And my parents looked at the environment and noticed he had no male friends. Every friend he had was a female. At the church, he would hang out. There'd be a gaggle of girls following him around, right? And you think, oh, that'd be cool. But it's not, because he had no male influence in his life. So at school, all he had was female friends. So my dad, conversation my dad had, and he goes, hey, you're not allowed to hang out with girls anymore. What? No girl. You have no more girls. You have to have boy. You need to find some male friends. Well, I can't find any. He goes, cool. Then I'm your only friend. You get to hang out with me at church, because you're not going to have, if I see you with a girl, things are going to get crazy. You don't get to hang out with girls. You only hang out with men. And it was one of the most instrumental moments, my brother would say, in his life, as he went out and he found a friend, Mark, and then he found Rob Trumbull, then he found Gary Hagel, and he began to have friends in his life that were males. And then he had super cool advantage, because now he could get along with girls. So the guy was like all girls in the world were attracted to growing up. I was just sitting around going, he had a girlfriend from 8th grade on. He's never not had a girlfriend, because girls are so easy to him, right? Except for now. Well, that's a good point. I don't want to watch that. Kelly's like, what?
He has a wife.
He has a wife until he got a wife. So my parents had to make a decision for him, one that really was a very, very important one, to making sure that we navigate it correctly. Boys do boy things. That's what boys do. Girls do girl things. Read James Thompson. Boys. This is what boys do. I'm not saying that girls can't play sports. I think girls playing sports are great, but girls... we play with Barbara, we navigate that. And I know that could be controversial. I don't care. What I'm telling you is I'm telling you how to navigate your children into the life that God has for them. And it's very important that we are, obviously, if you have boys, read James Thompson's Boys. Very incredible book. It really is. I'm sorry, I got fired up. Go ahead.
I like it.
I don't get to do this on Sunday, so you guys just got me here.
Well, you know what I like is there's a, amen. I think what it is there's a lot of stuff right now in our world, and there's a lot of pastors that are coming under fire for being silent. Silent is consent. And I think that it's not what we're saying. I think silent is, there are some things that are a personal, one-on-one, person-to-person conversation. It is not meant for the pulpit. It is a one-on-one conversation, because every single well, and there you go. I mean, this is a nice sized group where we can talk about some of these things, and there is controversial stuff out there. But understand that your pastors, you can be absolutely solid that your pastors, loud or silent, follow the Word of God. So if you ever want to know what we believe, get in the Word. And that's what we believe. Period. And then if you really want to hear it from our mouth and we're not silent, just have a one-on-one conversation, and we'll have a conversation about it. But there are just some things that are so personal and so private and so individual with every single person that's dealing with stuff that it's a personal conversation. It's not meant from the pulpit. It's not meant for here. And also, God's word changes people. It convicts us. It goes in, it grows us. It sharpens us far greater than me or you could ever do. Okay, now I said all that because we're not silent. Okay, so we had, I think it's really important also when your kids have a tendency to be tomgirl or tomboy, or a boy that is, okay, so we had one of ours that was, he was a mom's boy. And it was precious to me. It was very special to me because I hadn't had that. They'd been dad boys. And so when I got a mama's boy, I was like, this feels really special and good and precious. And then he wanted to paint his nails as a little guy. And I thought, okay, but he hung out with me and I was his bud. And we were friends.
Still mad.
And so
we don't paint nails.
But I knew right away there wasn't anything wrong. He loved hanging out with his mom, and his mom painted her nails, right?
And nobody told me.
And he wanted to do the same thing. And so I had to say, oh, baby, that's for mom. Moms do that. And sisters someday. At the time, he didn't have a sister. And so communicating with him, but not from a place of like, oh, no, you want to paint your nails?
No.
Oh. It didn't communicate anything to me other than he saw mom doing it. And I was his bud and his pal. And so we have the Holy Spirit inside of us. There's a way to navigate those things. There's a way to communicate those things. And so what did we do? We went and did just like what Scott shared. with a friend or some other example, and we went to the store and we went down that sports aisle and we went down the boy toy aisle, and I'm like, this is all stuff for you. And it's just redirection. It's just speaking into them. And I remember saying to him, show me what you love to do. Show me what you enjoy playing with. What would you like? And then also more time with Dad.
I love time with Dad. All right, there we go. Let's go back into the flow chart tonight. We'll hit that 3 types. Last week we were talking about, my gosh, skipped it. All right, number 3, write in consequences. That's what we're talking about. Life has consequences. There's life, right? I'm going to teach you at home what life is about. Life has consequences. You make good decisions, good things happen. You make bad decisions, bad things happen. It's just the way that life is. And so we want to help our children realize that in life, right, make good choices, good things happen. Make bad choices, there are consequences. F1 is pain. Pain is designed by God. God gave us pain. That's why we have it. Devil can pervert anything. Pain he can pervert. But pain is there for a reason. I touch a hot stove. Ow. It makes me go, okay, I don't touch hot stove. I don't touch fire. It keeps me from burning myself, right? And so the same thing, pain is meant to deter us from things. And so God designed pains. There's 2 types of pain. F2 is natural. Things just happen for our kids. We tell our child, don't run around a pool. They run around the pool, they fall down, they scrape themselves up. I don't go over there, pick up my child, and I'll give them a spanking for not listening. Why? Because they already got their pain. They already got their consequence. And actually, that's a better consequence. A child will learn more from that than they will from any other discipline. And it was great because when they calm down, you can go, see, Mom told you not to run the pool. It's not like I'm trying to take all your fun away. I'm simply trying to protect you. I want you. And these things get logged in over a lifetime, and you say as a teenager, don't hang out with those friends, right? Pool, right? This and that, right? Begin to play in the mind. Okay, they're not trying to take my fun away. They're just trying to keep me from bad things in my life. And so we use pain to help confirm the thing that actually don't do this. And so natural consequences happen. When they happen, remind them, take them back to, this is why I said that, this is why, right? And so now you understand why Mom or Dad said that. F3 is structural. Structural consequences or structural pain. A lot of things for our kids don't bring pain. So we have to bring pain for it. So a child goes off and yells at Mom. There was no pain in that. They didn't have no pain. So we have to structure pain to deter them because one day, as always, we don't want them going off on their boss. We want them to act in a way that they have self-control. And so we have to make sure we change their direction. That's the goal. Remember, as we get into these pain things, the whole goal is just to help them change the direction. So when we get into structural, there are 3 types. F4 is logical. Logical pain. Just makes sense, right? They were on their phone. They were whatever. Maybe you said no Instagram. You caught them on the Instagram. And so a logical consequence that you believe is going to change their direction is, I'm sorry, you lost your phone for 3 days. You lost your phone for 5 days, right? A reasonable amount of time. Enough time that you believe that they're going to learn the consequence and they're not going to do that again. So you bring in some sort of structure. Your kid, whatever, is angry and mad or whatever, and you go, and they throw the controller and break the controller, and you're like, oh, well, I guess, one, it's natural, and number 2, I guess we're not going to play games for a few days, maybe for the weekend. And so there's a natural amount of pain that we structure. A child comes home late. So now we're talking like junior high, usually high school now, high school kid. And curfew's 11, and they show up at 11:03. How many people know that that's late? To me, that's late. Why is that? Because I trained today for what I want tomorrow. You're going to have a job. When your job says be there at 9 and you get there at 9:03, that's not how I raised you to be. So what I do when you are a teenager is just setting you up for success when you're an adult, getting you to the place where you can't be late. I just can't. It's a habit in me. I cannot be late. So to me, if I say be home at 11, that means be home at 10:45. That means that you have, if nothing happens, that, you're able to, traffic or whatever, you're able to get home. If you get home at 11:03 and you had not called me, now I get that. There are times but you don't get to call me at 11 and go, Dad, oh my God, I'm going to be late. No, that's not how that works. Because this is kind of like a job. You called me at 10:30, go, hey, Dad, this is happening. I think I'm going to be a little bit late. Good, because that'll happen in a job, as long as it doesn't happen every time. You show up at 11:03, Well, now I have to bring pain to your life, and the way that I do pain is I go, oh, we can't handle 11 o'clock curfew. That's all right. Next week it'll be 9 o'clock. Now, if you can handle 9 o'clock, then Dad will probably raise it up to 10, and if you can handle 10, we'll make our way back up to 11. But remember this, if you can't handle 9, it'll go back down even further, and then we'll come to the point where we don't get to go out at all. Because I need you to make sure that when you have a time to be somewhere, that you are there on time. 9 o'clock means I better see you at 8:45. That's what I would do. I'd be home at 8:45, make sure that this doesn't happen again. So we bring in some sort of logical consequence for them. A child, you have to make sure that the consequence is greater than the reward. I think that's a big one. You'll never change direction when the reward is better than a consequence. How many people know that sometimes rebellion and doing things wrong, there is a reward for it? Dr. Phil talks about it. There's a reward in that, in his 10 Habits of Successful Life, right? And so when the reward's greater, so your child's late getting home, supposed to be home at 11, gets home at midnight, and all you do is yell at them at night and yell at them in the morning. Okay, I can take a yelling to be an hour late. That doesn't bother me at all. I'll take all the yelling in the world. Right? It'll never change the direction. And so the consequence has to change direction, means that it has to be bigger than the reward. Child throws a fit in the store, and so you just leave the store. That's what I want to do anyway. I didn't want to be at the store. So there was no consequence that removed no pain was brought that was greater than the reward that they had. So once again, we talked about this maybe a couple weeks ago. Make sure you find their kryptonite. F5 is isolation. This is rare. We talk about this in the book. Isolation doesn't. Timeouts, sit in the corner, they don't work. When I send them in the room for a couple hours to think about what they did wrong. How many people know they don't sit in there and go, okay, these are the 7 ways that I'm going to become a better person. I'm going to start to do this. I wrote a whole list of goals and ideas, Mom. These are things. Right? They just sit there and how annoyed they are and how mad they are. Just stew for an hour. It really usually doesn't change direction. It's a great tool for when they're 2, 3, 4, 5, toddler age is great. But, to me, it's not isolation because you can come out anytime you want. You just have to stop. You throw in a fit, go to your room, come out when you're done. How long you're in there, that's up to you, right? You go, oh, you're crying? Go in your room. You can cry. I don't mind crying. Don't cry loud. But cry, you can cry. I don't want to hear you. Go in there, and when you're done crying, you're done whining, you can come on out. So I guess it's isolation, but it's kind of a set amount for you. I don't mind grounding sometimes if you think it's going to change direction. Hey, you're not going out this weekend. There's nothing wrong with that. I think if it's going to change the direction, if going out with their friends is so huge, and it was something that you went through the filter, and it was a pretty big deal. They yelled at Mom. It's the 3rd time today. It's something big. Then you got to go. Hey, okay, because I think this is going to change your direction. And if it doesn't change direction, then I have to do something else. I just want to change direction is all I want to do. Time out, stupid. One of the things is maybe your kids are arguing. Holly would do this. And the kids are fighting, right? I was talking to some leaders earlier. Kids are not getting along. Holly is magical. She's like, all right, guys, boys, go sit in your room, sit on the bed, and you guys talk and when you're best friends and getting along, you can come out.
Well, my big rule was if you can't get along with each other and the people that live in the house, there's not going to be any fun time with friends outside of the house.
Right.
So it was just the reward for getting along with each other was that they get to have friends outside the house. Otherwise, they are going to be best friends. The struggle for us is our kids never really wanted to hang out with people outside of the house other than church friends and each other. So
right.
That kind of,
So. And that's real. Our kids are best friends. I love that. And I think Holly navigated that incredibly well with them when they fight and argue, because kids do. I mean, husband and wife fight. My gosh, we live in, right? So your kids are going to fight. They're going to argue those things. And so Holly would be until you get along, get in there. All right, you guys get along, figure it out, and you can come out. It's almost the same thing as we did for fits and tantrums.
Well, and it teaches everybody how to get along with people and how to get along with someone when you're annoyed with them and how to get along and how to navigate you don't want to hang out with them.
I felt like you were talking about me.
I didn't say marriage. But you know what I mean? It just, yeah.
It's a relationship. Your kids have to learn how to navigate relationships. And knowing how to navigate that well. You don't let your kids be mad, biblical. Sun doesn't go down on your anger. So they fought yesterday, and now I'm still mad at them tomorrow. You don't get to be mad at your sibling the next day. I'm just adding, this is extra bonus for you. You don't get to get mad. No, your anger has to stop yesterday. That's what it is. We don't get to be all mad, upset, and pouty. We are quick to forgive in the Anderson home. We're quick to let things go because you don't want to raise a child who gets married and holds on to garbage for weeks on end and just everybody's miserable in the home because they're upset at their wife or their husband. That's not what we're going to raise. We don't raise kids. The relationship is training ground for the future relationships. We raise kids who get over things quick. We get over things quick. We mimic those things. All right. F4 is logical. Oh, wait, we did logical. Nope, sorry. Take that out. All right, here we go. You ready? Here we go to F6. Last resort. This is it. This is F6. It's spanking. This is it. Biblically speaking, you'll see in your book, there's a bunch of scriptures. It's biblically backed. It is the last resort. We've done everything else. Direction's not changed. Spanking is really for the young and the toddlers and old. It should look like a funnel. When they're young, like they're 3, 4, like there's more. And then when they get to like 9, 10, there's none. Like if you do parenting right, then there's 0 down here. And I don't know if we just became better parents. I was thinking about that. I don't know if Peyton and Savvy have ever gotten a spanking. I don't know. Maybe when they were 2, 3. I don't know if the older kids sat them down when they were 3 and go, hey, here's the thing. You don't want that, right? And they're the incredible kids. I don't even know. I can't even explain how good they are as far as Greg. I'm sorry, Lake and Heath, they're better. And so,
Well, can I just add right there?
straight A's. Work hard.
But it is what you said, though. Here's the thing. We keep saying, and you've said it all throughout the course of this class, we're going to put in the work somewhere. And so, honestly, I think we were navigating, our older kids were guinea pigs, like they just were, for how does this thing work?
Right.
And I think that there were things that we allowed to slide with the older ones when they were little that maybe we should have been more mindful. Maybe I was lazy during the day and didn't want to, stay on top of it and remove them from a situation. And I just went ahead and was like, whatever. But then as they got older, it's not so funny anymore, and you can't ignore it.
I agree with that.
And then you have to right?
I agree. That's
and so
true.
I think, Baylor comes along, third boy, and I'm cooked. I'm like, oh man, like I got to get a hold on this kid early. And so I think early on in his little life, I was better. I had something to go off of. I had a point of reference. I knew what it looked like from the moment that little guy could babble to say, oh, talk nice, be kind, say please, Jesus loves you, whatever. And I do think it is that. I think that we learn as we go that don't take shortcuts in the early days. Don't take those shortcuts because it just gets harder. And then that's when I think this kind of stuff starts to happen. And then I also think for you and I, we parented not to, we parented, I'm kind of paraphrasing, we parented not to have the corporal punishment.
We did.
Because done
That's
wrong.
That's the goal, is never to spank.
Right.
That's
and
my
done
goal.
wrong, it's more destructive.
Right.
And I think you and I...
I'd rather you didn't do it if you don't do it right.
Correct.
Don't do it.
That's why we have a class...
It actually is worse than not
Yes.
doing it, right? It's horrible if you do it
Corporal
wrong.
punishment done wrong is worse than if you didn't do it at all.
Of course.
And so I think for you and I, that was a massive thing. We both were raised in homes that believed in spanking and corporal
My dad
punishment.
believed
I can't
heavily in
remember.
spanking.
Yeah, I mean, my home, it was... I don't remember.
Yeah, it was my dad's go-to.
But they believed in it. So my family believed in it and supported it. And I was raised in church, and I was raised in a church that, had families that believed in it. But it wasn't like you have like way more experience on it. But for me as a mom, it was more, I don't want to get to that point. I want to do whatever I can early on so I don't ever have to get to that point. But
cool.
we talk about it because there are families and they're going to use it, so let's use it correctly. Let's do it correctly so that we're not doing more harm.
And the ones that the spankings that I did give were good. Every spanking I ever got, I can remember them. They were, and it's funny, and I'm not creepy, but they were good memories. As weird as that is, my spankings are good, like a little creepy.
That's going to go viral.
Yeah, that'll go viral too. Good. That'll show that up there. Because it's always a moment of change direction. And done right, the guilt and the shame is washed off. The restoration of the dad and the mom relationship is quick. It's amazing. And direction changed in my life every single time. And so it was a very important tool for my parents to use to get to me where I am today. And it was an important tool that we used on our kids to get us to where we are today. Lakin got the brunt of it, I think. I think Heath, buns of steel, I used to call him. My God, you know how you say it's going to hurt me more than you? It did, because his butt was so hard, my Lord. The first one I ever gave him, he like looked at me, he goes, "That's all you got?"
Bring it on.
And I actually walked out. I go, "Honey, I think I failed that one. Can I get a do-over? How do I do this one? Can I go in again?" And she's like, "No." I'm like, "Oh my God." And so, but the book is very detailed out of the proper way to do it, the process of it, the healing, how fast you go in, how fast you make up. And I don't think there's any wiggle room in it. I think that's the way it's the way I did it, the way my parents did it. And it, like I said, you'll see a kid who's just, we had it with our kids at times where they're just ornery. Like, you're like, oh my God, everything, like, just mouthy. And then spanking, because I gave you plenty of warnings. We finally got to the last, you're not changing, spanking. And then they're just happiest kid in the world. You wouldn't, like, it's just, oh my God, life is so great. Thank you so much. Thank you for my spanking. May I have another, right? It's just a weird biblical thing. But like I said, the goal is not to. Didn't have to spank Peyton or Savvy. Maybe when they were 2 and 3, maybe a little boop. That was it. We got better, as Holly said, of navigating things when they were young and making sure that bad habits didn't get in their heart. I agree with that wholeheartedly. We became better parents, and we're hoping that you going through this class will help you be better parents, and maybe you'll also not ever have to use it. But you got a 7-year-old, and things are crazy and nothing's working. And then you go, well, this is the direction. Please do not go home if you have not been spanking and give out spankings tonight. Don't do that. And we said that all the way through, that you need to make sure that your children have an adequate amount of time to change their behavior and know that this is coming. And I would take a few weeks at least, and just be going, hey, see that? That's going to be a spanking. What's a spanking? Let me tell you what a spanking is. And so just so you know, you got a couple weeks. I'm kind of giving you some leeway right now to figure out, but this is what's coming on the forefront of you because I love you so much that I have to make sure that I bring pain into your life. And in the book, like I said, we go through ages and how to spank at all the different ages that the kids are. Because obviously you don't spank a 3-year-old the same as you do a 6-year-old in any way, shape, or form. It's a whole entire different process. It's almost just like a little boop. It's not even really much pain. It's just a boop for like a little 2.5, 3-year-old, just to bring a little bit of pain to make sure that we change direction. But like I said, if you have younger kids or not have kids yet, the hard work that you put in until they're 4 years old will make parenting either hard or make parenting so very easy in the junior high and the teenage years. And so I implore on you to go through the chapter, to learn it, let the Spirit guide you, let God guide you, of course, in all of those. Use the flow chart that you have. You very rare, as you went through the flow chart, most of the time you won't ever get to the very bottom. Most of the time you'll navigate with your kids and you'll have different things that you can do and good structural consequences that'll change direction. Put it in your heart. My goal, what's our goal? Change direction. That's all I want to do. I just want to change your direction. Whatever I have to do that is what we as parents do. And do you have more? Oh, I'm sorry. You have.
I did. I was just going to say, if there's any part of you that's like uncomfortable with that, then just don't.
Right.
There's other ways to make your kids feel discomfort, pain, whatever we want to call it. I remember when my kids were little, even just holding onto their little arm and like just their wrist, and I would just apply a little bit of pressure and go, I'm not kidding right now. Have you ever had like a little 1.5-year-old or 2-year-old that's like, oh, just crazy, and you're trying to say something and they just keep going and you're like, no, I'm being really serious. I'm not playing with you right now. And I would literally just hold their arm and just be like, hey, gather yourself. Calm down right now. Like I'm trying to talk to you right now. And it's enough. Or how about just a stern voice? There are a lot of kids that react or change behavior when mom gets very much like, hey, I'm not kidding.
It's not yelling. It's just stern.
Right.
And there is a difference.
And there is, and
a stern voice is way scarier.
It is scary. And you can get scary eyes. Scott has very scary eyes.
Gosh darn it, I have very...
Do
do I have scary eyes? I love when they mimic me how I spank.
Well,
All the
just
kids laugh. They
just
think
how
they're
when
so
you're
funny.
mad, it's like he gets these
No
eyes.
more. They do the no more.
No, his eyes are massive, and you're like,
Gosh
wow,
darn it.
okay, put your eyes back in. Like, I'm like, okay, come on, I'm not your
Easy
kid right
killer.
now. I know you're annoyed with something, but put your eyes back in. Because again, we can do so much harm if we do it incorrectly, and if we fly off the handle. And so, we
No,
know.
never do angry. Also,
No, we
that's very
know
important.
ourselves.
You never spank angry.
No, you never discipline angry.
No.
And
Walk away,
many
gather
of
your
us know
thoughts.
what that looks like, right? We've all done it,
But that's why the
and we
spanking
all
is...
don't want to repeat it.
Spanking, you just go to your room. And then you can go through your flow chart and figure out what to do.
Well, here's my thing. I'm actually, like, I'm very big on not being a counter, like the whole, I'm going to give you to 5, but you may have to count for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There were times where I was like, I'm about ready to unload.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids are probably like, yeah, and there was times where she did.
And don't feel guilty. It'll happen.
But there are times where just leave, exit, take a pause, especially if you're tired or if you're worn out or you've been going 24/7. Because maybe you have a right to be frustrated, but maybe you're also on edge and you're extra frustrated. And maybe you're about ready to unleash some fury that's not it's not appropriate to the crime. So you need to just go take a pause on yourself and then come back and be like, okay, I've collected myself. We're going to have a chat. And again, it's way more effective. You're controlled. You know what you're going to say and you know what you're going to do. So if you feel in any way convicted about it and you feel uncomfortable, then God's got another parenting something for you. He's
And
got
blended
another.
families, you have to do this usually.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and adopted families, yeah, you have to work around it.
And
it
it's
won't be up to you.
possible. I mean, there's people that have raised amazing kids out there, and they haven't used that as a tool. And then
wonder-
there's some that did it and did it really, really well. It was effective, and he's like, testimony to it. So
Love you all. If you learned anything at all, give the Lord a hand clap.